Welcome to Burn the Ship. Thank you very much for coming. I want to say that very first. I appreciate it. It means a lot anytime anyone allocates the time to come out here and talk with us and talk with our audience. It does mean a lot. So thank you very much for that. Our goal here is to connect entrepreneurs with professionals that can help you go all in on your business. We want to talk to small business owners that have walked the walk and talked the talk and been through all of the things that we experience as entrepreneurs, because it's not easy and nobody tells you the one, two, three of how to get it done. You know, we hear about great business people in history, and all of those people had great mentors that figured things out for themselves and learned from other people. So, this is us establishing ourselves in the lineage of disseminating some of that information that we feel is valuable for small businesses and entrepreneurs in general. So, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Sure. So thank you again for inviting me and for bringing me out here. I really do appreciate that. So
Here, I'm gonna turn your mic up a little bit. You can keep going.
Okay, so my name is Maya Sims. I'm a CPA, local here in, I'm actually right out of Snellville, Georgia. And so across the city.
Yeah,
And
a decent drive for everybody knowing, so be appreciative.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it wasn't a bad drive. So I was able to navigate around traffic, the heavy traffic time. So it wasn't that bad. But I have a small CPA firm that I run and that I founded, and our primary goal is to assist small business owners with one, minimizing or optimizing their taxes so that they're only paying what they actually need to pay and what they actually owe. But even bigger than that, helping them to make really informed business decisions based on the numbers and not on mental accounting or mental math or emotions, which never usually turns out very well. And so we want to help them to understand their numbers so that they can really make informed, very logical decisions and help their businesses to grow and thrive in that way.
Tell me a story. Where did you start?
Okay, so I probably am one of the only people that I know. I just figured out what I wanted to do my second semester of my senior year in high school, and I just stayed on that course the whole time. But
yeah, you might be the only one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I never changed my major in college. I knew what I wanted to do, but I also knew that I didn't want to live my entire life behind a desk, and that my chosen profession was going to be behind a desk. So my parents are military, and in their Air Force, and in my declaration of, trying to be different, I went into the Navy, and so I served 6 years in the Navy, and it was really great. I got to travel, got to do different things, met my husband, and so yeah, and then I was like, okay, well, now it's time to get down to business, and so sat for my CPA exam. We moved from Virginia to Georgia, and been going at it ever since. So yeah, 25 and a half years of experience now later.
Man.
Have my little business, and we're just chugging along.
Tell me, early on in your business, how'd you start? Like, what did you do to kind of conquer the whole I need clients thing?
I think that part is really hard because anytime you have a small business, there's this, either you fall into the cycles of feast and famine. Mm-hmm. So you get a client, you're doing the work, but then you're thinking about, okay, well, I need to secure the next client.
Yeah, the pipeline.
And so then you're doing this thing, or you end up in a situation where you have difficulty with your client fulfillment because you're so focused on the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. So I do think it's a kind of a balance that has to be there. And in the beginning, it's a challenge to consistently deliver to your current clients in a way that you really feel proud of and that you feel good about, and still acquire new clients. I do think social media has definitely made a huge difference in that. When I started, there really wasn't a lot of social media, so that wasn't the thing. So it's been, I think it has made it easier and harder, but I do think it makes it much more accessible to be able to consistently.
Yeah, nurture the pipeline.
Yeah, exactly.
So, where did you find your first clients? Were you out networking? Were you?
My very first clients, actually, I found through teaching.
Oh,
I
really?
used to teach for the SBA and for the Atlanta Women's Business Center. And so that's how I actually secured my first clients. That and through church. And so, yeah, I was actually teaching, not so much doing the business or advertising. But again, that was back in 2004, 2005. So,
Right.
yeah, so there wasn't a lot of social media at that time.
Sure.
At least not for advertising purposes.
For sure. Have you found? Do you network now?
I do some networking, but I'm actually primarily doing more organic social media. But also, I've been in business so long that
Right.
I get a lot of referrals. We generally have about 30% growth each year, and
Wow.
that portion is primarily word of mouth. The rest of our growth is through either networking events, through social media, or through actual direct marketing through social media, organic marketing, I guess, rather, through social media and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
And do you find that you have a niche, or are the people, or is it just kind of the true word of mouth style where people are interacting with other people and they kind of pouring out their
I-
connections?
I think it's kind of, so the clients that we probably work the best with are usually service-based, service-oriented clients. I have a few that are retail, but that's not really our meat and potatoes, so to speak. So we primarily have service-based clients, a lot of therapists, attorneys, professionals, that type. Um, and we do a lot of work with minorities and with women-based businesses. I have a nice, what I like to think of as a nice mix, but I'm a mom, so I attract moms. I'm a woman, so I attract women. So
Is it
it's
just
kinda
you?
that kind of thing. I'm the only CPA in my firm, yes. I do have two other employees right now. One is a tax specialist, and then I have a bookkeeper who works full time as well. I'm kind of looking at, because I'm looking at expanding, we are looking at, expanding into doing some outsourcing. But right now it's just the three of us, so yeah.
It's exciting. And so, what are some of your goals? Coming up. Like, you're looking at expansion? Is it to really grow that client base? Is it to add new services? What does that look like?
So my big goal for this next quarter as well as for next year is really to deep dive into strategic tax planning, and not just, like, we've always done some projection modeling and planning services for our clients, but really getting into strategic planning, because a lot of our clients are growing and they are getting into that higher net worth, or they have assets that they want to be able to pass down generational wealth or things like that. So we want to grow our offering, and make it more sophisticated
Mm-hmm.
as our clients become more financially sophisticated.
Sure.
And then also trying to really help the next generation really be able to tap into that knowledge base without having to kill themselves to find reliable resources.
Right.
I feel like there is a plethora of either really bad advice through social media, or we run into this issue where people want to tell you a lot of half truths to suck you in, but then some people take those half truths and run with them, and the next thing you know, they're wrecking their whole business or wrecking all their finances because they don't know the whole story, and what they're getting on social media is not giving them the whole story.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, I've run into a number of those situations where people miss deadlines. I don't know, just all kinds of just crazy stuff have happened, or they did something thinking that they were doing the right thing, and then the IRS comes back and says, well, no, actually, you didn't quite do that right, so hey, here's your bill.
Right.
That kind of stuff. So
Right.
just trying to help people to really avoid that kind of heartache and stress by doing more educational things,
Sure.
and a lot more free educational things, because the reality is that not everybody has the seed money to just instantly hire a CPA and an attorney and all these different people to just help them get started. And we want to try to help people with the getting started piece by giving more educational tools for them that they can tap into. And then when they're ready for like my level of service, or they're ready for an attorney to actually do the next step things, then they've already put that foundation down and they're actually ready for that. And they don't have to have, you know, a rich uncle who
Right.
gives them $500,000 in seed money.
Right.
So, yeah.
Tell me this. The reason that I reached out to you was that it's the end of the year. What is everybody supposed to be doing right now? Because I network a lot, right? And I think everyone, and really, I guess the first place that I noticed it was salespeople, because that's who I work with and manage, you know, is salespeople is like really working hard to get them to subscribe to the idea that the year's not over. You know, I'm like, hey, there's 16.6% of the year left. Like, we still have work to do. So, what are you going to do during November and December when people have decided that they're in get ready for 2024 mode, right? Like, I guess my question is, when I see that in small businesses, like that preparation mode, two questions come to mind. Is that preparation mode, is that a good place to be mentally in your business, is preparing? How much of your headspace at this time of the year should be built into preparing for 2024? And how much time should that take, right? And then the second fold, I guess, of that question is, people know they need to be preparing for 2024 now because they hear everyone around them saying it, right? Gearing up for 2024. Tax preparation is really kind of the thing that I heard that, oh, we're preparing for, tax planning for next year so we know how much we're paying. But like, I do their credit card processing, so I know that they're doing the exact same amount of volume this year as they did last year, and they're probably going to do next year. So my question is that, as well as like, what should people actually be looking at in November and December when they do have time to analyze and project for the future that is valuable for them and the health of their business?
I think a couple things. One would be, definitely looking at the numbers to see, where are we? And while those gross numbers are really important, which of course those are the numbers that you kind of see, the other side of that is the net numbers. And really looking at how are we spending money, and do we have things that we don't need? Doing maybe an audit, a self-audit of your expense list to see, oh wow, I still have that subscription. Why do I still have that subscription? I don't even use that thing. And cutting the fat, getting rid of things that you don't need, because I've had clients that their gross stayed the same, but their net profit
increased or
either
doubled,
increased or decreased because of, oh yeah, just go ahead and sign up for the annual on that. Oh yeah, just add this or just do that. Oh, let's try this out. Or they're testing, or they're doing different things to try to grow their business. But if the gross number is not changing, that means you're spending more, which means that, yeah, you're not going to owe as much in taxes, but your bank account's going to be a lot lighter than it was last year. So you may want to be looking at that and thinking about that. Also, if you're in the other position where your bank account might be a little thicker than it was the year before, thinking about, okay, well, do we have a retirement plan set up? Do we need to put more money in that retirement plan so that before year end, so that it actually counts and we can take that deduction in 2023 rather than missing an entire year of deductions? Where are we on our net profit, as far as if you're hitting that threshold between, if it's a newer business and you're starting to hit that threshold between profits of 40,000 and you're about to go into the next layer? Well, have you already taken your S selection? Have you already looked at whether or not that's going to be something that you need to do for 2024? Because if you don't have an S selection, you only have the first 2.5 months of the year to make the election for that current year. So you have until March 15th to make the election for 2024. Well, that means that you need to know where you are, what's going on. If you have assets that you need to buy in the first quarter, really evaluating, okay, is it better for us to wait till first quarter, or should we buy those assets in December so that we can take those deductions in 2023? And it's not buying stuff that you don't need.
Right.
It's not buying stuff that you don't plan
It's
on buying.
buying stuff that you're going to buy later.
Exactly. Like you were talking about the tripods. Okay, well, if I'm going to buy those tripods in January or February, but right now my income is really high, my profit in 2023 is really high because I just did a great job in saving money and I didn't spend a bunch of extras. Well, maybe I should shift that back into 2023 to take the deduction now because I'm going to get it anyway.
Right.
You know, so it's not spending money that you shouldn't spend, but it's definitely getting a clear picture of where you are for taxes and where you are for profitability, because maybe you do need to, wow, my kids did a really great job and I was going to pay for his football dues. Well, wait a minute, let me pay him a salary, let him pay for his football dues. Just made his football dues a tax deduction. I mean, there are legal ways that you can do things like that and shift money into lower tax brackets, but you have to know where you are. And if you don't know where you are, there's no way you're going to get to where you want to be.
Is that something that entrepreneurs should be paying attention to all the time, you think?
Really, I really encourage my clients to look at it at least quarterly. Now, quarter one and quarter two, we don't really harp on that much because unfortunately, there's usually everybody has kind of cycles and weirdness in the first quarter anyway.
The trends aren't exactly indicative of the rest of the year.
Exactly. Right? But by mid-year, you kind of know, at least the trajectory that you're on. And so really, absolute latest, June, July-ish, basically over the summer, you really need to kind of step back, stop.
Get another good financial picture.
Let's see. And if we're on course, if we've set because usually we try to set a baseline. And if we're on course for that baseline, then great. Just let it roll. But if we find out when we get, to mid-year that it's actually we made, 20% increase. And a 20% increase that comes in, that trickles in over 6 months, you don't feel that. It's there's a little bit of extra money in there, but it doesn't necessarily feel like an increase. But that 20% might mean that you're in a new tax bracket, might mean different things. And so taking a look at those things could save you down the road. And at least if nothing else, forewarned is forearmed. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so with entrepreneurs taking a look at that quarterly or biannually or whatever that may be and getting a good financial understanding, what changes, when you're sitting down middle of the year, what are some of the discussions that you guys are have is, are you talking about, I guess if your net profit is going down, you're talking about cutting some expenses that are unneeded. And if your net profit is going up, you're talking about maybe, increasing spending in a way that is indicative of the growth of your business, or kind of what is that conversation like?
It really does. I mean, it's kind of it depends. It does depend on the client. And it also depends on what their goals are. So if I had a client who her whole thing was, she was single, she was more mature, she didn't have any children, and her big thing was, I had to be ready for retirement. So anything and everything that we could possibly embed in her company,
IRA and 401k, anything
we put her on a solo 401k. We shifted her medical so that she was on an HSA, so that she can max out her HSA. We maxed out the solo 401k. Yeah. We were doing anything and everything possible to make that happen.
And so she's liable for the lowest amount of net income throughout the year.
And because she was so just freaking out concerned that she was not going to be ready when it was time to retire.
Yeah.
And so
that was
super
That's a
important.
Good thing to be nervous about.
Exactly. And
truthfully.
Like I said, she was definitely more mature, and so it was just something that was an extreme worry on her. And the interesting thing was, because of her goal, she actually ended up paying slightly more in Social Security and Medicare than I would normally recommend. But the point was not the taxes at that point. The point was her goal. Her goal was financial stability
Yeah.
in
And
retirement.
maximizing contributions.
Exactly. And so that was the focus. And I've had another client, his thing was his he felt like he was really behind on saving up money for his kids' education. And so we basically hired his kid. We shifted things. He had excess money, so we shifted things. So he hired his kids into his business. Gave them a legitimate job. They got hired, and then he took their net checks and he dumped them, like gave them as much as he felt comfortable with, and he was dumping all that money into their retirement plan. Well, his
It's like
oldest
100% contribution to.
exactly. So, and then he did a match. Well, few years went by, and when his kid went to go to school, his son was able to take a loan against his own 401k to pay for school, and then take the payments that he was making back to himself with interest.
Right.
So again, but his focus was not on his personal retirement. He had worked in corporate before that. He had a very posh retirement waiting for him when it was time. But his focus was on his kid and making sure that his kid had whatever we could maximize out for his educational resources. And he wanted that like legacy kind of generational wealth to start building that. And so basically his son became his own bank, and he was able to borrow from his 401k, pay for school, and then just return the money by paying, minimal interest,
Right.
way lower. And again, he's paying himself back
Mm-hmm.
and helping his son to understand the value in being able to be financially independent. And that was what his focus was. So that's what we were building for him.
Yeah.
And so I think also the dreams of the client are really, really, really important.
Yeah.
It's really important to understand what those are, because the cookie cutter thing might be great. One thing might be really great for you, but it might like really suck for somebody else.
Yeah.
It may not be what they need. And the reality is nobody has a business. A business is not a trophy. We don't have a business like, oh, look, I have a business, and look how pretty it is, and look how healthy it is, and look how it does this. Like, nobody cares about that. Everybody cares about, okay, what does this mean for my quality of life? What does it mean for my children's quality of life? What does it mean for taking care of my family? What does it mean for leaving my legacy? Like, they have dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to understand what that is, so then you can tailor what it is that they're going to do in their business to accomplishing those goals and dreams.
Yeah, I think that is what I would say is maybe that, I guess, is what was in the back of my mind, is like everyone is in a different place in their life. And no matter if you ask your neighbor who owns the exact same type of company as you, that does the exact same volume, that drives the exact same vehicles, like you can match everything down to the T on paper. And your goal might be completely different than what the person beside you is, because of where they are in their life, Exactly. And you could have a friend in the exact same industry, and you feel like a lot of things are going very similar for you guys, and net profit and gross income can be very, very different. So people that give you tax advice that are not tax professionals, or people that give you bookkeeping advice that are not bookkeeping professionals, you should take it with a grain of salt, because a lot of times, like what I've understand, like, and not to bash people in general, because I've gotten a lot of really sound advice from a lot of people that have honestly been through a lot of different things in the small business world. But those people that are giving you good advice always encourage you to go talk to someone that knows more than them. So I guess that was really what was going on in the back of my mind as far as bringing you on the podcast today, was that I wanted to just beat that like a dead horse, like, is just letting people know that every single instance when you're using words like tax or deduction or contribution or anything like that, is you really need to lean on the experience of someone much more knowledgeable in that area, because it's a difficult thing to understand by looking around you. You know what I mean?
Well, and I would encourage people also to understand that, so, okay, yes, I'm a CPA, I'm in the financial world, but one of my clients is a coach. She's a life coach. And she said something to me I felt was really profound. She said, "You can't read the label on the bottle if you're in the bottle."
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's, even for me, I have to invest in myself. I have to invest in the things that I put in to myself, whether it be learning, whether it be books. I have a business coach. I'm in business and I have a business coach.
Well, you're also required in your industry, right?
Yeah, though I'm also
You're one
required.
of the very few that has continuing education.
Correct. I have continuing education, but believe it or not, I actually spend well and above
Yeah.
on additional education, self-education, development, because everything is going to give you just a small snippet, and you have to be able to take all of those small snippets, look at your own personal goals and your situation, and then modify them or get other people that can help you to tailor those things for your situation. And I have to get help too. My business coach, she's like, "Maya, why aren't you doing da da da?" And I was like, "I don't know. I had my client do that just the other day, and I have no idea why I couldn't see it myself." But you just can't. You cannot necessarily see your own situation. And the reality is that you need people outside of you to be able to look at what's going on and be like, yeah, I kind of think maybe you need to adjust this or you need to modify that. And you need to invest. So you need to invest in yourself, but you also need to invest in experts that can help you and guide you. And they need to know what they're talking about. So,
Oh, I agree fully. I mean, because it's not time well spent within your own business to learn those things, honestly.
yeah.
It's really, I mean, I guess it is for you, but.
It depends. It depends because I'm an accountant. I'm not a finance person.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a degree in finance, but I don't do finance. So I have other people that are really great at finance, and I lean on them. When I want to figure out how I'm going to shift my retirement portfolio, I don't try to figure that out myself.
Yeah.
I don't work
You're
in
not
the
going
stock
and
market.
weighing your own investments. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't work in the stock market, and I'm not there every day, all the time. But I know people who are really, really smart who do that. So I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. In fact, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, because if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm probably in the wrong room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to be with people who are way smarter than me and people who are really experts in their area, because then I can learn from them. And if it's something that's beyond my learning or something I don't necessarily want to learn, I can use their services and they can do it, and I can hire them to do those things. So,
for sure. Well, as far as your business goes, what would you say has been the most valuable skill for you in continuing to grow? I think you said 30% year after year, right? Or
being consistent in caring about people. Like, I really feel like my business has grown because of relationship. Because the reality is that people want relationship, I think, more than they want anything else. They want somebody that actually cares about what's going on with them. I had a client whose spouse had brain cancer, and it was, of course, extraordinarily traumatic. So I would go out of my way to, like, I don't want anything. I'm just checking on you. How are you today? I'm not going to ask about last week. I'm not going to ask about tomorrow, because God only knows. But how are you today? How are you feeling today? Is there anything I can do to help you? And, yes, there is a deadline coming up, but can I help you? What can I do to make this easier for you? And I'm not, and just really helping her to understand that I really empathized with her situation. I can't sympathize because I had never gone through anything like that, but I can show her compassion. And the reality is that a lot of my clients, when I was going through it, when my mom passed, or when I've had health challenges of my own, they have been extraordinarily compassionate and patient with me. But that's because I went out of my way to be that for them when it was in their family, in their situation. So I think that that's probably the most valuable currency that we have as human beings, is just being compassionate and gracious with each other, and trying to be understanding with each other.
Yeah, I agree. You have to take people where they are, you know what I mean? And that's going to change every single day. It's going to, It's going to affect how you do your business, where you are that day and where you are mentally. But it also affects your business when you know that you left a positive note on someone. It affects where you stand with yourself mentally when you say, I'm doing something for the right thing. I'm doing the right thing to do the right thing because I care about people. It puts you in a completely different mindset of entrepreneurship in general and just human beingness in general um, than spending so much time involved with the analytics of your business. I actually just had a conversation with the last gentleman we did a podcast with about how his strength is the ability to analyze things and create a process to solve those issues. And then his weakness is that he analyzes things in a way that's
can be your weakness.
100%. So like you have to do those things because they're the right things to do and because they leave an incredible feeling in the relationship from those people. But at the end of the day, you have to mean it. You know what I mean? You have to reach out to those people and you have to mean it, and you have to know that you're reaching out because it's important to you and it's important to them and it matters. What would you say has been most difficult, since flipping I guess the change from the Navy to right into entrepreneurship, but knowing a lot about your field is a big shift in itself. But what early on in your business did you find was most difficult?
Most difficult. I think
The ponderance is funny to me. I apologize.
no, it's okay. It's okay.
I do the same thing.
I was thinking about it last night. Like, okay, what were I think finding your people, and not just your people as in your clients, but also your support people, like people that are going to be your emotional support, your that are going to, because I've had people that love me, but they are probably some of my biggest dream killers.
Yeah, yeah.
And understanding that that's going to be the case, it doesn't mean they don't love me. It just means that unfortunately they don't give good advice.
Yeah.
And some of the people we love the most give us some of the worst advice.
For sure.
And some of the people we love a lot give us great advice. And so understanding that advice is just that. It's just advice. It's not a command. It's not a commandment from God. Like, you must do this.
And their mindset is a lot of times completely different than yours. You know, like a lot of times advice from a third party, which is crazy that we just started this podcast out by saying you should definitely always get advice from a third party.
Multiple, the scripture says, with many advisors.
Yes, with many advisors.
Good actions come out of that. So success comes with many advisors, not just your brother's cousin's uncle.
Oh yeah, but I think some of those people are just they try to be realists. They aspire to be realists, and it comes off as a lack of enthusiasm or a lack of faith, almost. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if you hear it enough times, it will affect where you are mentally.
It will.
So you have to have, not only do you have to find your people and your tribe of people that make you feel and empower you the way that you want to.
Yeah.
You have to find people that are also hungry for the same things that you are hungry for, so that you can fuel that spirit. And that spirit comes in a lot of ways and shapes and forms, whether it's competition, which it most certainly has been for me pretty much my entire life. It comes as camaraderie. A lot of times it comes as from a desire to work with people, like a familial type of interaction with one another. Yeah. A lot of times it comes as pride. You know what I mean? Is people not being able to. I mean, if I'm 26, right, and my dad's 48.
Wow, your dad's younger than me.
So Trust me, it's not an uncommon thing on the podcast. All right. My dad's 48. That doesn't even sound right. Let me think.
It's like, oh my gosh, you could be my son. Wow.
No, he is
You're
48
raising my
actually.
kids probably. Go ahead. I'm
Um,
sorry.
but like he has spent no time in the entrepreneurship world. He knows what he reads about small business on his phone. Like one of the things that I find that everyone knows is like 30 or 50% of small businesses or 30% of small, like that's how
Yeah,
little I
the
listen.
failure.
Yeah, that's
The
how
failure
little I
rates.
listen to these statistics, is that I can't actually recite the statistic accurately for you.
I know what it is, but that's okay. We don't have to talk about it.
But people know it.
Yes.
People know it that don't know anything about small business. People
Yes.
know that have been working in their same corporate job for 20 years know that statistic, and that
Yes.
blows me away.
Yes.
I'm like, do you know how many successful businesses there are? You know how many people that work really hard and are really passionate about what it is that they do?
Well, like you said, like people don't think about the fact that 40% of all employees work for a small business.
Yeah.
So small business is a huge portion of the economic system, and without small business, our economic system would literally collapse.
Oh yeah.
And
Absolutely.
people don't seem to also understand, like, yeah, they may only make up like about, I think it's like 30% of the GDP or something like that, but that's like a three-legged chair.
But think
You
about how
take
many.
out one leg,
Yeah.
it's done.
And
It
think
doesn't
about how
matter.
many industries rely on that, though. I mean, I think the
Yeah.
top 5 payment processors in the world are something, or excuse me, the top 5 payment processors in the United States are something like 70,000 employees, right? All of which only have a job because of small business. Like,
Yeah.
if small business evaporates, my business is gone. We're payment processors.
Yeah.
I don't do payment processing for Sears. I don't work
Exactly.
with
Yeah, Coca-Cola
C.W.
or
Matthews.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not my
Exactly.
clientele. We would be done. We would be doing something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of
We would
people
own
don't
it,
really
but we would
understand
do
that.
something else.
Yeah.
Like
A lot
it's
of people
just.
just don't understand that part of it. I do think that there's a lot of romanticism that's put around small business
I think so
sometimes.
too.
But one of my closest friends, she loves me dearly, but she's like, why don't you just go back to corporate? And I was like, thank you so much for your input.
Yeah.
And we just don't talk about that. We talk about kids, we talk about the weather, we talk about vacations, we just
Yeah.
don't talk about that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. And I think that you do have to be willing to protect your dream. And I'm of the belief that, I do feel like a lot of what we dream are talents, that ways we want to use them and benefit the world through sharing those talents is God given. Like we're inspired to do things, and you just need people around you that are willing to help you to protect that inspiration, but to also do it in a way that is healthy. Because of course you also don't want those people that are like totally gassing you up, and the next thing you know you're like
Falling in love with yourself.
$100 million in debt.
Yeah.
You have no you have nothing, and you're like just wondering like, okay, when is the bomb gonna drop? I mean, so there's also that piece of it as well. You want to get good advice and all that, but you just have to be careful. You have to be careful about protecting that dream and who you share the dream with, not out of secrecy, but just out of, it's like protecting your kid.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't let people just come up, oh, you're parenting wrong.
It's not like you're ashamed of your idea or you have any doubt that you're doing the right thing. It's just that you have to protect your perception of your own thing a lot of times.
Because people are going to say you're crazy. I mean, people thought
and it's hard.
People thought that, was it the guy who created, not UPS, UPS.
Yeah,
the guy
it's
who created
UPS,
UPS. Oh, he did a paper.
Mm-hmm.
And his professor told him, oh, you're insane. This is never going to work. This is stupid. Why would you do this? Nobody does this. $10 billion later.
Yeah. I think they make like $70,000 a minute.
I'm just saying. And yet, when he first pitched the idea, he was told that he was dumb, that his idea was dumb, and his professor, I don't give him a C or something, like some
Yeah.
not a good grade
Yeah.
on that paper that he wrote, which it was the seed idea, was the baby, that his seedling that became UPS.
Yeah. It's
So, yeah.
yeah, that's for sure. You shouldn't let tell you people tell you to start or stop. You know, honestly, like entrepreneurship is truthfully, um, it's a, it's like bacteria. I guess is a good analogy, right?
Okay.
Some bacteria is very harmful.
Yes. Okay.
Some bacteria is very helpful,
Yes.
and you know, when you're in small business, I guess that is really what the advice is. You know what I mean? Is that it can be that bacteria in either direction. Is like some of the advice or the interaction that you get into, or just even the mental spaces that you put yourself. Sometimes it can be that bacteria that is, you know, great for your gut or bad for your brain. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of really strange things about entrepreneurship, and honestly, I draw a lot of those parallels to athleticism, right?
Yeah.
Of competing at a high level in sports is like no matter what you do or how good you are, people are going to tell you, you know, try their best to plant seeds of doubt in your mind, you know, and whether it's you know somebody from the news or it's somebody from your own team or it's a coach of yours, I promise you when you
It can
step
be
on the
people that love
floor.
you. It can be people that don't like you.
Oh
It
yeah,
doesn't
for
matter.
sure. Like they'll tell you, "Hey, be careful stepping into this next area," right? Like, and if it's not, it most certainly is the second you step on the floor and to compete with whoever you're
Because
competing
everybody has
with.
an opinion.
Everybody has an ego, you know what I mean? And that's okay, you know, because I think that that's what makes us a lot
Yeah.
of times for a lot of people. A lot of people, that's their personality, is their ego. And I'm not saying having an ego even is a certainly unhealthy thing. It depends how you manifest that and how you interact with other people. You know, if you're,
Exactly.
um, but you have to have a sense of pride, especially in small business. You have to have a sense of um, both pride and privacy, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
protection and
Yeah.
building that wall around your business. And people like you help. Honestly, I mean, there's people like me out there in the world that accounting 1 and 2 beat me to sleep in college. I passed both of them. I made A's in both of them. Knew swiftly then
It
that
was
that career
not your
path was
role.
nope,
Not your path.
not me. And I'm good with numbers. That trust me, the only reason I passed because a lot of it was math, right? And the ability to just regurgitate things that people told me without really understanding them.
Yeah.
It really did well for me in college. Um,
My daughter is like that. She's like, yeah. She may have no clues. Like, all I need is hold on to it long enough to take the test.
well, I hope she falls in love so passionately with something that she does in the
She
future.
has. Yeah.
Like that is really what really I guess if there's one thing that I could leave people with about the podcast is that like everyone has something to say, and we've interviewed 300 and something people that have had something to say about entrepreneurship, right? And every one of them, some similarities and some differences, but it is a very personal journey with yourself. Um, it is a fight with yourself. It is a duel between your brain and your heart. You know what I mean? And people like me and people like you with the just sheer desire to help and empower that entrepreneurial spirit, I hope that we leave the impact that we desire on a lot of these people. So,
Most definitely.
well, let me ask you this, right? Burn the ship. Did I tell you where the whole burn the ship phrase
I
comes
actually
from?
had heard the phrase before, the adage.
The Tony
long
Robbins version or the
I honestly don't even remember where I heard it.
Tony Robbins says it a lot. I think that's where a lot of people have heard it from is Tony Robbins, but the original, like the story behind it is Hernan Cortez, right? Is conquistador, lands in Central America with this Spanish armada of ships, right? And they take all the supplies off the ships and then they disassemble the ships and they burn them on the beach. Day one, it's the first thing they did. And he was symbolizing to people that
There's no going back.
that's exactly right. And I don't think the stakes are exactly the same between your entrepreneurial journey and Mr. Cortez's traversing of the Atlantic. But I do feel like there's that light switch moment in everybody's mind, which is I can only imagine what those sailors had as they were on that beach burning their vessels
Yeah.
to say, well, we're definitely not going back now. And I think every entrepreneur has that moment as well, where it's like a flip
Yes.
of a switch where they say, all right, now I'm really in it to win it, and I've got to figure it out because here's where we are, and there's no going backwards to me. I have this entrepreneurial bug that I can't rid myself of, and I've got to learn to cohabitate with it. And so, my question to you is, what's it like to burn the ship, and what's it like to go all in on your business? Obviously, from you know, two Air Force parents and you join the Navy is says a lot about you in your own right. You've always moved against the grain in some way or shape or form,
Yeah,
but
I'm more of the quiet rebellion.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's it feel like? What is that gratification like? What is the emotions like when you go through that journey, and how do you feel now?
I think that we all need to be, I think that when you get to that point, you have to understand that there's going to be a level of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that fear is actually healthy. You need to process it, and you need to sit with it and be like, okay, I am afraid, but also have a sense of your purpose is bigger than your fear. And have that community around you that we were talking about before that is really going to not like gas you up like with nothing, but really help you to remember who you are.
Yeah, keep you level.
Yeah, so that you can remember what your purpose is, what your driving force is, why you're doing it. It's almost like being married. Like, remember the why, and remember, why this is the direction you want to go in.
It is a marriage.
So that you don't forget. Because I think sometimes that the reason that fear can beat us down and make us turn around and try to swim back to the other shore, or try to figure out, like, maybe I can just kind of take these few pieces of wood and maybe, figure out a way to get this back together. I think what makes us do that is fear. And we have to understand there are going to be some very difficult decisions. There's going to be some very easy decisions. And that's all part of the process. And it's okay. Like, be okay with the fact that it's okay.
Yeah.
You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make some bad decisions. You're going to buy some software that's going to really suck. And you're like, oh my gosh, why did I waste all this money on this? You're going to have some things that you're going to have to just deal with. But it's okay. You'll be okay. Just because of one little thing doesn't mean, or even 2 or 3 different little things, it doesn't mean the end of the world. Nobody's dead. Nobody's, even if you're out on the street, it's like, it's okay. You can do this. But don't let the fear be your decision maker.
Yeah.
To really be more focused on your purpose and the goals and who you are as a person, as an entrepreneur, as a service provider, as or if you sell items, whatever it is that you do, as that person, don't forget who you are.
Oh yeah, I call that ground zero. Yeah, you have to hit ground zero every now and then. You have to be back at the very rawest version of yourself, and to know that those are the only things that you always can rely on.
Yes.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. It really does means a lot. Anybody that allocates the time, like I said, to come out here and speak with the audience is great. I think that this message is perfect for this time of year, and to let people know exactly what they need to be doing and exactly where your head needs to be at in January, is and be picky about who you're around, and be very selfish about what you're listening to, and
please
pour into
so
other
much
people.
junk out there.
You just remind yourself of the right things and feed yourself the right things, and then pour it out into other people, when they solicit advice from you. So, and when they don't, just shut up. Just give yourself some time to breathe, all right? Not everybody needs your 2 cents.
That is true.
And if somebody gives them to you, take them for what they're worth. But I hope that some of our people will lean on you for your expertise.
Would welcome them with open arms.
I promise if you try to lean on me, I will be leaning them to you because I am a burned piece of grass when it comes to this type of knowledge. But like I said, it does mean a lot. Thank you. If you got anything else to leave the camera with, please. The audience is very thankful for your information. But any closing thoughts?
Just, remember to invest in yourself and then to invest in the people that can support you. And we are more than happy to sit down and speak with people to see, whether or not it's a good fit. The reality is it's not always a good fit. Sometimes I give a referral. But if it is a good fit and we are in a position to really be able to help that person, we would love to have them. And the company name is Your Virtual Asset, because we want to be an asset to each and every client that we assist and to the larger small business community as well. So they can always look us up. We're actually yourvirtualasset.biz, B-I-Z, and they can even email me at maya@yourvirtualasset.biz, and I'd be more than happy to, at least have a conversation. Let's see whether or not we can help them. And if I can't help them directly, I have a ton of resources. I'm always willing to give out resources to help people so that they can get their business healthy and get a nice, firm foundation.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks.
So welcome. Thank you.
Burn the ship.